One.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here, back with another edition of the Walk of Shame. It's been a while. I'm excited to do this one for UFC 248. Part of the reason why I'm excited to do this is because I got my good friend, the homie from the Slip and Dip podcast, also a Flow Combat, also a fan-sided MMA, the incomparable Matt Wells. Matt, what's going on, my man?
Man. We just had one of the weirdest and best and weirdest, most confusing nights at MMA, I think, in recent memory, man. So I'm glad to be on here with you and break this whole thing down in the moment.
Yeah, man, this was strange. This was really strange, and yeah, why, let's just jump right into it. Israel Adesanya successfully defended his UFC middleweight title in some fashion. This was by far one of the strangest fights I've ever seen in all of combat sports. Definitely among the more bizarre of UFC title fights. I'm kind of reminded of Anderson Silva's defense against Damian Maia,
Yeah.
um, Woodley against Maia, but even yeah, Woodley
Yeah.
against Maia maybe comes to mind. The rematch between Woodley and Thompson comes to mind as well. This was one of those strange fights where it's kind of hard to figure out what just happened, but because we are people who write and opine about mixed martial arts quite a lot, we just have to come up with something to say about it. So let's do it. Um, my scorecard was 49-47, with the first round being a 10-10 in favor of Israel Adesanya, of course, like the judges had it. What was your score for this one?
I had it 3-2 Adesanya. I had Romero winning the first and the fifth. And I had Romero winning the first and the fifth, and Adesanya winning the middle rounds, or second, third, and fourth. I mean, there's not much to go off of other than I think Adesanya, you take when everything else is all the same, right? When it's like not much volume going on, not much to go off on the striking department. You go to that one last criteria in the judging criteria when you talk about octagon control, and Izzy was trying to push the pace for most of the
Yeah.
fight for me. So that's why I was looking at scoring rounds for him. I mean, obviously the first round, I literally scored the first round for Romero because of one punch that had Izzy blinking. And that's all I can really go off of, man. And then of course Romero turned it up in the fifth round and acted like he just had the best fight of his entire career after the fact. But yeah, man, like this is not a title fight that anybody's going to be writing home about after this week. Everybody's going to be talking about the disappointment and the almost borderline embarrassment, really. That was what this was.
And so, of course, without going too much into the co-main event, because we definitely want to talk about that. Do you think coming off of that intense high contributed to the disappointment with this? Because another fight that this reminded me of, and I made this comparison on Twitter after the first round, which the first round I found very entertaining for, obviously it wasn't for the action, but just the tension. It felt very palatable. It reminded me of Anderson Silva versus Nick Diaz.
Mm.
You know, to have these inactive rounds and not much going on, but the personalities mixing was kind of fun to watch. And I think without that co-main event being this height of when literally the greatest women's mixed martial arts fight that I've ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
to go from that high to then go to what the hell are we watching? It seems bizarre. It's like it makes it seem um, even less action packed. It takes that abstract tension and just throws it out the window, because we just saw an actual bludgeoning by two warriors, and now we're seeing this chess match that's not really chess. It's like a chess match on a checkers board or something. It was. I don't know. Do you think that was a contributing factor to, I mean, the crowd reaction, the reaction on Twitter, our reactions right now?
I think it's possible that it could have been. But for me, like even coming into this fight, I always had, the hunch that this was going to be lackluster. Why? Because obviously you've got a guy coming off a 2-fight losing streak getting a title shot, which is a thing that should never happen ever, period. And so
Hmm.
with that, it was like, okay, all right. I mean, you would think that Romero would come out and go balls to the wall because, like, hey, this is going to be your last shot at a title shot, man. You're old. Like, you've been
Yeah.
given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And even during fight week, he said if he were to lose, he would get an immediate rematch, which is insane for him to say that during media day this week. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on in his head, man, but obviously he knows a lot about what the UFC wants from him, and it's obviously something that doesn't make any much sense to the rest of us. But I don't know, man. Maybe they both were watching Joanna and Weili in the back. Maybe they were both watching that and just cheering on like the rest of us, going crazy. And then they forgot that they had to go out there and fight. Maybe that was it. I don't know. I like the
It
theory.
may,
I like it.
maybe they just said, okay, we're not winning the 50,000 extra, so screw it.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
I don't know that was obviously, I say that in jest because they, they made a lot more than that, but um, what the hell? So, all right, let's go by round by round as best as we can recall. Because I didn't take notes during this whole event. I normally take notes while I'm watching an event before doing the Walk of Shame, but instead I drank vodka. So here we are. Um,
Okay.
so so round one, 10-10. Just nothing to judge off of. That one punch, like you said, that's the deciding factor for you. I know you had that at 10-9 for Yoel. I had second round 10-9 for Yoel, and I had rounds 3 through 5 10-9 for Izzy.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's one of those fights where, and of course, the co-main event was like this too in a much different way. It's one of those fights where I think you can have all sorts of scorecards, and you're probably not wrong.
Right.
It would take a lot of effort to screw up a scorecard for a fight like this because there's so little to judge that if you are forcing a 10-9 here and there in certain spots, you're going to the most minutia of detail to try to decide who gets the nod. I just thought that criteria was so little for the first round that in good conscience, I just couldn't do it. I don't care how the judging the rules or whatever are made to discourage 10-10s. I think that was a talking point on the broadcast as well. But 10-10 exists for a reason, and I think round one was the perfect example of that. Um, but getting back to what Izzy did, right? You said those leg kicks started taking over, and I think that's when the tide really started changing, even to the point where Yoel is going to his wrestling, and that's granted he is a silver medalist in the Olympics, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time to enter mixed martial arts, yet using his wrestling is a sign that things aren't going according to plan to him, which is kind of nuts. But how did you see it round by round?
I mean, it was just so weird, man. Excuse me. I will agree with you that like if there is ever going to be a 10-10 round, it has to be round one, because there was so little action. Um, I caught myself thinking like in that first round when Yoel he faked a kick, like he feinted a kick and then did like the slowest spin around. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't concerned with Izzy doing anything whatsoever. And like it was like I should have made like a meme like Yoel saying to himself as he's slowly spinning, he's like, I just finessed all of y'all into this title shot. And then he
Yeah.
sits back. like, like it was just like the way that he came out. I thought he was going to do that for like the first few seconds, right? Like, okay, let's see what you're gonna try to do, and then he was gonna get back into his bouncing crazy Yoel thing, like doing like the dropping to the one knee and doing all that kind of stuff. If he came out and did all that in the first round, we would be having a whole different conversation. But the dude literally stood still for 2 minutes. He didn't do anything. I mean, it's almost like we shouldn't even score that round. Just throw that whole thing out. Just throw it out. Don't even worry about it. Let's get back to action, which we saw a little bit of in the second round with Izzy pushing the pace a little bit more. He outstruck him, started working the leg, started putting the money in the bank.
Let me fix this.
Started putting the money in the bank with the leg kicks. But then again, there was very, very little from Yoel on the return of that. So it's like, what can we do to entice some more action in this fight? And that's when we had Dan Miragliotta kind of overstepping his boundaries a little bit. I think that, what was that, but before the fourth round or third round, when he came and brought them together and said, hey, you guys are going to have to fight. You guys are going to have to fight. And, you got to give the judges something to score, which is kind of crazy. Because to me, I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's plenty to score. Izzy is throwing strikes. Yoel is standing still and not doing anything, but doing the Anderson Silva, the
Wing Chun.
Yeah, the Wing Chun feint blocking shit. So it's like, I get why the ref is saying that, but I mean, why Dan Miragliotta was saying that, but at the same time, you can't change or try to entice change in what a fighter's doing, so to say. I guess it's like what was it in Pride? They would have like the timidness with the yellow cards and stuff. I wish they would have that. Like that would be cool to have, but I don't know what else to do, man. I mean, we all got finessed in that main event.
I mean, I definitely Dan was overstepping his bounds in my opinion, and then it's interesting. We've seen kind of a pattern now of Dan Miragliotta interfering in fights where he shouldn't, where he should be the more objective observer to enforce rules, and imparting yourself on the action, not the way to referee a fight. For a second, I thought maybe he blinked his eyes and he thought Israel was MVP or something. So, yeah. So Dan was definitely off in that, and it's giving the judges something to judge. Yeah, I get it. If you're a fan, okay, I get it. I get that you came to see Yoel Romero flying knee someone head into the rafters, and you came to see Israel Adesanya style bend someone into a concussive trauma. But that's not, but that just wasn't the strategy presented. Those opportunities were not there the way you would have anticipated. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing there for the judges to do their job. The judges are not there to be entertained. The judges are there to decide, based on a certain set of criteria, who is doing better in this athletic contest.
Right. 100%.
Right. So, yeah. So, I mean, that was pretty silly on Dan's part, and it's almost like coaching the fighters at the beginning of the next round. It's like, hey, this is a title fight. Like, yeah, no shit. I think they realize that.
Exactly.
I think they realize that. All right, so let me address one or two things we got going on in the chat. Shout out to Rob Iman, who always jumps on these Walk of Shame broadcasts. What up, Rob? He likes to cut people after the fight. So that this person needs to get cut. He'll just have a list, but he's saying no cuts made tonight. So I know, Rob, I know you're disappointed. He says that the first round should have been. He gave it a 10-9 for Romero, but he said maybe it should have been a 9-9 to punish both. While Stock Brockerton says the first round was a 10-10 for the world. So
Yeah.
so
I'm not mad at
so
that.
that's that.
Not
Yeah.
mad at that.
Yeah, man. So all right, now I guess we have to go to what's next, because there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as the action in this fight. I do think, I mean, we could talk about the delusional nature of Yoel Romero in this one, to decide that he's going to confront Adesanya after the bell rings, after the final bell, like immediately after the final bell. Now you want to close the distance?
Yeah, like you didn't have a whole 25 minutes to do this.
Yeah, like this was straight out of the Paul Daly versus Josh Koscheck playbook. This is ridiculous. Like this, I just can't make any sense of this. For Adesanya, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. It should be Paulo Costa next. Hopefully he heals up from this mysterious bicep injury that doesn't seem to be preventing his biceps from growing at an exponential rate. So let's just get him in there as soon as possible. Maybe up next we've got a mixing bowl of Darren Till Jared Cannonier when he's healthy, and Robert Whitaker sneaking his way back into contention. So I think there's plenty left for Izzy to do. Does this fight at all entice you anymore to see Israel go up to 205 to fight John Jones?
Oh man, that is a great question, and the answer to that is no. Izzy has been, at least this week, he was pretty adamant about, being that guy to hold down the division. Go on a nice little title run, rack up the wins, get the rubies on the belt, fill up that whole little circle. I'm with that. I am definitely with that, especially after seeing what we saw tonight, because I think a lot of the timidness from Izzy was because Yoel looked gigantic. He looks like a freaking monster. And John Jones is bigger than Yoel Romero. Not as wide, but he's taller and
Mm-hmm.
he's longer. So I think we're going to see a
And
lot more
yeah,
timidness, but the difference is John Jones is going to be more willing to exchange. He's going to be willing to get in there
yes.
and open it up. So the fight won't look the same, but I don't have that same desire because of what we just saw. That I didn't know Izzy would ever be so slow to pull the trigger against anybody. I thought he was being way more way more cautious than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the UFC has been doing some crazy things lately, and they're probably still going to book it if something does happen with Costa's bicep again. I know he was backstage flexing it, showing it off to the media in attendance, doing a little backstage scrum tonight. So it seems like he's ready. I'm tired of seeing him being that guy, on the fence after these events
Mm.
at Izzy's fights, like yelling and trying to fight through security to get into the octagon. So
With his Miami Vice shirt on.
yeah, let's just go ahead and schedule it. Just go ahead and schedule that thing. Let's make everybody happy and see what happens with that. Because he's definitely not gonna be like Izzy's not gonna be scared of his wrestling. He's gonna try to punch his face off.
Right. I'm in agreement with this not making me want to see him versus John Jones anymore. In fact, I didn't really want to see it in the first place.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it's not a fight that I've ever really been excited for. I think maybe a couple years of dominance by Adesanya maybe will change my mind, but as of now, as before this fight, after this fight, I have no real interest in John Jones being the next guy for Izzy. Um, yeah, so Costa should be next, but I will say that I was impressed by his takedown defense. He showed good takedown defense in past fights, particularly the Derek Brunson fight. But to see him defending takedowns from a determined Yoel Romero, when he went to his wrestling, he meant business. I think he knew how this was going to be an uphill battle to get that belt. So he pulled that rabbit out of the hat, which is his Olympic caliber wrestling, and Israel was having no parts of it. So that was a plus. Still not enough for Jones, in my opinion. Now, what do you think should be next for Romero?
Oh man, next for Romero, how about retirements? How about that? How about retire? I have no desire to see you fight anymore after what we just witnessed tonight. I mean,
Oh wow, you writing him off that quick?
yeah, sorry. Sorry, because you know why? Because he's going to try to work his way into another title shot somehow. He's going to maybe possibly try to say, I'm going to go up to 205 and fight Dominic Reyes or something like that. Like when Dominic Reyes deserves an immediate title rematch, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm out on the UL train, man. His fights are too weird. He's too old. He is a beast of a wrestler. He doesn't wrestle whatsoever. I mean, he tried what two or three takedown attempts tonight and didn't
Yeah,
really didn't
or
really try to
four.
chain
Yeah,
anything together. Like it was just like the
yeah.
single shot, and it's like if I get him, I get him. If not, oh well, type thing. Um, and then it's just like he waits way too much, man, way too much to try to find that one shot, and that's really just been the story of his whole career lately, man. It's just doing all this weird stuff, all these weird incidents in every single one of his fights. I mean, I think the last moment that I was really entertained by Yoel Romero was when he kissed Luke Rockhold after he knocked him out. So, I mean, no, I honestly I don't know what's really next for him. I mean, if he fights again, cool. Of course, I'm going to watch, obviously, but I don't care who he fights anymore. I don't. I just don't. That's where I'm at right now.
I'm not mad if he ends up fighting Cannonier. I think those are two guys with very interesting personalities. Should be at least a fun build up. And both guys, when turned on, are action fighters to say the least. So that could be an interesting class. The only thing I don't like about it is if Romero wins, then yes, he probably sneaks right back into a title shot. So yeah, I mean, he's talking about he's going to fight until he's 52. He wants to outlive Bernard Hopkins' combat sports career, which I don't think the body will hold up to that at 52 years old, but we'll see. But I don't think you'll get your wish of Romero retiring at all. So before we move on to the co-main, a couple things in the chat here. Somebody, Bolon Julio, is calling Adesanya a marathon runner. I don't know why Yoel didn't put him to sleep. I think it's a scam. Now this fight doesn't mean shit. Nobody beat nobody.
I mean, I guess.
While I do like the quote, nobody beat nobody, I mean, calling Adesanya a marathon runner for this fight is kind of ridiculous. Yoel is the reason why nothing happened.
Yeah.
The man who literally stood still, and then tried to act like in the last minute and a half, try to throw middle fingers and taunt and goad Adesanya into getting reckless is the reason why this fight, he fooled y'all into thinking that he was the one pushing the pace in this. That is not the case at all. This man conned y'all. Okay. He finessed for the bag. He got the bag. He is the master finesser. All right. So let's Rob Iman thinking Romero should ply his trade at 205. He said that he thinks he should fight Reyes next. So that is something that I know will drive you insane, Matt, which is why I said it for you to react to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I mean, I saw that in the chat, and that's why I kind of spoke on it too. But no, let's not do that, please. Let's not do that.
Yeah, not Reyes. I'm okay with the 205 fight, but not Reyes. Alexander Gustafsson, I'd like to see that one. That's one that I can get behind.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah. So all right. So let's move on to, in my opinion, the greatest women's mixed martial arts fight in history. And yes, recency bias is a thing, but I can't think of anything close. Like the closest I can think of right now is Joanna's rematch with Claudia Gadelha. That's probably the closest I can think of, or maybe Miesha Tate versus Kat Zingano, another great one, but not a whole lot else. And all those are distant seconds to what we saw with Weili Zhang defending her title by decision against Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Now, let me look at my scoring app right here, make sure that I get this right before I quote it. I scored it 49-47 for Weili Zhang. What was your final scorecard?
What was my final scorecard? Let me see here. I had her winning 4 rounds to 1. What is that? 49-46? Yeah, 49-46 is what I had. I mean, obviously the rounds were close, but I thought she did more round to round. I think the only round I gave Joanna was round 3. I think that's the only clear round you can give for Joanna. Like, you can make arguments for other rounds, but clearly that was Joanna's best round in the whole fight. Zhang looked like she was fading at that point, and then all of a sudden came back stronger in the 4th too. So for me, like, I gave her the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th for Zhang. Joanna's clear round was number 3 for me. But again, I mean, it was a hell of a close fight, and if you want to score other rounds for Joanna, be my guest. But that's just my opinion on it.
I mean, that was an extraordinarily close fight. I had it even going into the final round. My scorecard was round 1 I gave to Joanna, and that was an extraordinarily close round. That's one where I saw a lot of division on Twitter, and nobody was really mad at anyone else saying that that they had it the other way. Nobody was really mad. That was one you could have gone either way. I gave round 2 to Weili Zhang. I think that's another one that could have gone either way. Round 3 was definitive for Joanna, if you ask me. Round 4, if I'm remembering that correctly, was definitive for Zhang, and round 5, I think was for Weili Zhang as well. And just like we said about the first fight, you could have a scorecard going all over the place. Having a 3-2 or 4-1 or even a 5-0 scorecard doesn't sound outrageous to me at all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I mean,
it
I don't like to be honest with you, when I heard that it was being read as a split decision, I was kind of shocked because I was like, I thought there's no way that Joanna won 3 rounds. Like, in my opinion, I was like, okay, I could see you giving her 2. I just don't see her winning 3, because I mean, she just kept getting pieced up. Like, yeah, she had a couple of moments, where she would come forward and land some nice strikes, but it seemed like more often than not, every time she would get in that striking range, Weili is waiting there with that buzzsaw of hooks, man, just to unload on her. And I mean, hell, if you want to go by the old school method of judging fights, I mean, who's out there with the octuple head right now? It
yeah
sure ain't Weili Zhang, you know.
yeah.
Just saying. I mean, that's not a way to score fights by damage, but just saying.
But I mean, that is a striking image right there. No pun intended. Like I joked on Twitter that Joanna looked like RoboCop without his mask.
Holy
Like,
shit.
like I mean, that was pretty dramatic damage she took. That's probably, man, the only hematoma that might be worse than that I can think of right off the top of my head could have been Hassan Rockman against Evander Holyfield.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was actually thinking back to Joanna's own hematoma at UFC 211 when
Oh,
she
that
fought
was nothing,
Andrade.
man.
That was
That was
nasty.
nothing
That was
compared to,
nasty.
to
And
this
then,
one.
yeah, compared to this one, I was like,
Yeah,
I tweeted about it, and then I was like, wait a second. Like 30 seconds later, I was like, nah, this one's way worse.
yeah. In
Way
fact,
worse.
that must have been. Did you tweet a picture of her old one?
Yeah, yeah. A bunch
Okay,
of
yeah.
people
When I
started
saw
tweeting it
that,
like the same time. Yeah.
yeah, I saw that. I was like, yeah, this one's much worse, and we
Hmm.
still got 2 more rounds to go. Maybe Mark Hominick
Oh
and the
yes,
Jose Aldo
that
fight.
was probably the at least MMA wise.
Yeah, MMA wise, that might have been the number one. But all right, so getting into some of the X's and O's with the co-main event, I'm seeing a couple people in the chat. I'm sure you're seeing this too, saying that they thought Joanna should have gotten a decision. I'm not mad at that at all. I'm really not mad at that at all. If you gave it to Joanna, she did land more volume, at least from what I can remember. I haven't looked at the statistics, and quite frankly, I don't think the stats really tell the story of this fight. I think they're kind of meaningless
Hmm.
for the most part. But Joanna was using good in and out movement. She was, she was pressing the action a lot of times. It's just that when a kick got caught and she got countered, or she went 1 or 2 strikes too long in a combination, she was getting clipped.
Hmm.
And when she was getting clipped, it was a lot different than when Weili was getting clipped. Like, you think about the damage that Weili took from that head kick that looked like the roundhouse kick that kind of tapped her jaw as Joanna was getting kicked in her base leg. And you think that was a very powerful strike to land. Um, but Weili was having that same sort of reaction from Joanna from her punches.
Yeah.
From her short range punches. So it just shows you the power differential. Just that everything she landed had so much more consequence, and that's what kind of swayed it for me. For Zhang, obviously you said that was kind of what did it for you as well. So I think this is a fight that we can rewatch and see it differently every time. And I'm very much looking forward to rewatching this fight and without the excitement of it going on, just or the I don't know, because I pick Weili to win this without maybe the bias of, I really wanted to see Weili win this, so let me let my pick be right, without any of that, and just completely objectively watching the fight. I'm looking forward to that, and I think there'll be a lot to break down technically, and just the way scorecards are made. A lot of things we can learn from that one.
Yeah, man. For sure. And I think, in the moment, at least the way I was seeing it, you know, yeah, Joanna was getting off a couple of more strikes, in the exchange. Like, say she would come in with like a 3 punch combo ending with the low kick, that classic like Muay Thai style combination. Like, she would come in with that, and Zhang would answer back with 3 hooks, and that one hook would rock Joanna's head back, or something
Hmm.
like that, making it look a lot worse. And then in the open space, I remember a few times when they were exchanging in the center of the cage, single shots from Zhang would pop Joanna's head back to get a reaction from the crowd and everything like that. And those kind of things, and especially one thing that Joanna does, she tells on herself quite a bit in the middle of these fights. So you can tell, like, after her opponent throws something that hurts her, she's gonna smile, and
Hmm.
she's was doing a lot of smiling tonight. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna go back and watch it probably tomorrow evening just to be sure that like you said, the excitement of the moment, getting caught up in, oh man, this fight is as it's unfolding, it just keeps getting more and more intense because hey, these exchanges are really even. They're both having their moments. Oh, Joanna got rocked a little bit. She got pushed back on her back foot. And then Joanna comes forward and rocks Weili. And then Weili looks like she's fading. And then no, she's back again. It was just an incredible fight through and through, man. And it sucks that it's one of those fights where somebody had to lose. But, for me tonight in the moment, I thought it was a clear win for Weili Zhang at the end of the day. But that's just me.
Yeah, part of me was kind of expecting to hear a draw like Mark Hunt Bigfoot.
Oh, I would have hated that.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that because that man, like, somebody has to lose this fight. This is amazing. I would have been okay with that. And also too, the scorecards were so close. There were so many swing rounds. It was all but one or two rounds were swing rounds. That's a pretty narrow margin to win or lose by. So as far as what's next for them, do you think they should run it back?
Um, I would say no. I would say no to running it back because I don't like immediate rematches when the challenger loses. I hate that. That is my pet peeve of combat sports. If especially, I mean, the exception here would be that Joanna is a former champion, right? So I'm
Hmm.
not as strong in that stance because she has had a title before, so she does earn some of that respect. But like in the case of like a Dominic Reyes, when you've never been a champion before, no, you don't get an immediate rematch. Sorry, go win another fight, come back. That's the way I view meritocracy. But we all know meritocracy is dead in the UFC at this point. So
Meritocracy.
yeah, like that's like a cuss word right now in the UFC. Like,
Yoel Romero's a title challenger off of a losing streak. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So no, like I'm not with the immediate rematch though. There is a one Tatiana Suarez who I believe is healthy now. She is willing, ready, and able, and deserving of a title shot. So let's see that.
yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. I think Tatiana Suarez should be next in line. Also, I do think there's a case to be made for Rose Namajunas if she decides to come back. I wouldn't be mad at her stepping in, even though she was last seen losing the belt. But her and Weili Zhang sounds pretty damn exciting to me. But I kind of rather see Tatiana Suarez just to see some new blood, just to see someone coming off of a win. Style wise, should be very interesting, and a lot of people are kind of appointing Suarez like the champ in waiting anyway.
Exactly. Right.
So yeah, so I'm definitely down to see that. I see paths of victory for both women in that fight, and then let Joanna fight. I don't know. Let me look at the rankings here. Yet Joanna fight. I don't know. She's fought Gadeo twice already.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I don't know. Let her fight someone else. And then maybe if she comes out victorious or looks good in that, then we can discuss her rematching. She shouldn't be too far away from getting back in the title picture with a performance like that that easily could have gone her way. So yeah, I'm all for that. All right, now let's see what else we had on the card here, because it seems like the main and co-main were so dramatic in their own ways and so memorable in their own ways that it's almost like we didn't see an undercard tonight, at least the way my memory serves me up. Um, and that's very strange considering what Beneil Dariush and Drakkar Klose did against one another. Imagine being Drakkar Klose, and you wake up on the canvas or you wake up backstage or wherever, and your coach is like, hey, probably got that extra 50K though, bruh. It's not a total wash. And then you look at the monitor backstage, and not so much.
And that your
then
hopes
one
and
of the
dreams just go out the window as
one of the greatest fights in history happens right after you thought you had that extra 50K. So, and that is because that was a pretty exciting fight. Dariush, of course, gets the KO win in the second round with an overhand that out of nowhere when he himself was on the verge of being finished. I initially thought this was going to be the stinker fight of the card. I thought this fight was going to slow down the pace of the main card, and there would be zero momentum leading into the title fights.
Yeah,
I imagine getting close, no pun intended, to Dariush, and just kind of clinching him up against the fence and stalling, and you might see a few striking exchanges here and there. Maybe you see Klose on top of Dariush, just kind of avoiding submission attempts or something. That's what I thought this fight was going to look like, and boy, was I wrong. Like, they came out to hurt each other. Dariush with a near rear naked choke in the first round, kind of burnt his legs out on the body triangle for the last minute and a half, 2 minutes or so. And then to see the effects of that, you're like, oh, Klose might finish this. Lands some good leg kicks, lands the big punches. Dariush, who is known to have not the strongest chin in the division, is sent on his bicycle, and miraculously he comes back from that to get the finish. Matt, what was your reaction to that fight, in particular that finishing sequence?
no, man, I agree. Like with a lot with what you're saying. I was saying, like, as the main card was about to unfold, I was like, man, that Dariush close fight, I wish that was kicking off the card, because I thought the other two fights were gonna have a lot more action, because I thought it was gonna play out just like you were saying. But I also think, kind of to the point that you were making earlier, kind of like in a reverse method, maybe they both went out there and thought, hey, we got to really go at it, because these next two fights, they're going to be bangers. So we got to go out here and try to steal the show if we want to have any chance at a bonus check. So maybe they had that kind of like thing that you were talking about earlier, but they wanted to go out there and put their stamp on the evening, and they weren't necessarily already drained of all that emotion from watching a hell of a fight, one of the best fights ever. To see Beneil Dariush just kind of just say fuck it, like I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. Like that was kind of out of character for me. Like I did not expect that from him. I know Kings MMA. I know these guys, they don't really necessarily back down from fights. Like they do like to get in there and scrap. But yeah, it was kind of surprising in that moment where he was kind of rocked to see him still just come forward. And maybe that was something that they knew in preparation. Like maybe when Drakkar Klose starts swarming like that, he leaves himself open. Maybe that was something that they saw in the game film, and maybe that was like still in his mind in that moment was, hey, he's going to be open for a very nice, clean counterpunch right here that's going to put him on his ass, or at least stiffen him up. And as Joe Rogan said, do the chicken dance for a little bit, and that's, hey, I mean, it was beautiful. It was one of the wildest exchanges of the night, up until that point. That whole sequence right there when they were both going back and forth, landing punches, rocking them. I mean, I am so glad that fight played out the way it did, because I was expecting a decision going into it. I honestly, like, after Neil Magny got his hand raised, I was like, all right, do I need to do anything? Do I need to run to the restroom? Am I good? Am I hungry? Like, I was kind of having that thing going on. But, I mean, hey, it ended up paying off, man. I'm glad. Congrats to Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, like that's one of the fights where I thought, like, yeah, maybe it's time to refill my drink. Heat up that slice of pizza that's left over from the other day, and kind of, that's when I'll get these jokes off on Twitter, not really
Exactly.
pay a whole lot of attention
Yeah.
to what's going on.
For
But
sure, the
but
gift game is
yeah,
strong.
yeah, oh yeah, the gift game was it stays on point, man. I thought I was really going to put some exercise on the gift game during this fight. Now, Rob Iman on the chat saying Jakar Close's poor fight IQ cost him tonight. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But imagine being in that situation. I mean, Dariush is a guy who has been viciously knocked out several times over, and you clip him with a shot. You see those legs wobbly. It's almost, it just seems almost like second nature. You're gonna go in there and try to put a stamp on it right at that moment. And getting back to what you said about perhaps that was part of the game plan for Dariush. Like, I don't think so. I think that sequence happened so quick. I mean, Close is not a guy who's known to be a power puncher. So getting hurt by his strikes is not, I don't think that would have been in the game plan at all. Close has always been the guy to neutralize you as opposed to hurting you.
Right, right.
And yeah, and I could see Darius taking that shot and really being out on his feet and just going off an instinct at that point. And just throwing something and it happened to connect. Like that was a wild sequence that I don't think really can be coached necessarily. It's one of those things that just kind of happens.
Yeah.
I'm glad it happened tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
Fun.
For sure. And
It was fun.
not necessarily like it's like a game plan thing, so to speak, but it's just like maybe that's something that they saw in film. Like, hey, when he's looking to land this technique, maybe he leaves himself too open or something, and maybe that's something he saw in that moment too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if he starts swinging this, what was it? What was he throwing? He was throwing overhand left.
He's throwing a bunch of hooks. Hooks and overhands.
Like, yeah, hooks and overhands.
Yeah.
Like maybe something they saw in film. Like, hey, when he starts throwing this, like, he's wide open for counters. Like, he doesn't look to get out of the way of stuff. Maybe that was something. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, probably, yeah, you could be right. I mean, Rafael Cordero, who is the head coach at Kings MMA, also the mind behind the Shooter Box Academy. If there's anybody who knows the ins and outs of separating someone from consciousness in wild exchanges, it's probably him. So even completely contradicting what I said about those sequences being too chaotic to coach, if there's anybody that could do that, probably would be Rafael Cordero. So
That's true.
yeah, give him his due credit.
I mean, he comes from the days where they used to train like that. Literally.
Yeah, where that was Tuesday.
Yeah, that was Tuesday. Light sparring.
Yeah. That was the final sparring session before weigh-ins, right before weigh-ins. Yeah. So Rob also saying he'd like to see Close versus Gregor Gillespie next. Can't say I'm mad at that one. I mean, that's definitely seems like more of a rebuilding fight for Gregor Gillespie if you want to prioritize him, because I know he is a guy that a lot of people were high on in the lightweight division, and seeing him as a potential title challenger in the next several years makes a lot of sense. I see Gillespie being able to really rebound very nicely against a style like Close. He's also suggesting Dariush take on the winner of Alex Hernandez and Islam Makhachev. And can I say, for everyone who has remotely a bit of intelligence and social awareness, war Alex Hernandez. Islam Makhachev with the trashiest take on Twitter after the greatest women's mixed martial arts contest in history, saying that women don't belong in MMA. And yeah,
first ballot
Makhachev,
Hall of Fame, trash take.
Yeah,
winner.
that's
First
garbage. And from someone who will never be anywhere near the level of skill or accomplishment of either Weili Zhang or Joanna Jedrzejczyk, that is the just trash statement. That's on the level of like the Twitter troll with whose screen name is Cody 0493412. That guy. That's what Islam Makhachev became tonight with that tweet. But I digress.
How do you, as a fellow athlete, not even appreciate what you just witnessed? As somebody who is in the same, like not even a fellow athlete, like literally one of your peers, you fight in the
Yes.
exact same sport. How are you not appreciating what you just witnessed?
And
I'm
then on and then
mind blown right now. Like, it doesn't make any
and
sense.
yeah, and then on top of that, it's like when you are not in the title picture at all, probably never will be. Like it, you're not in. You're not even mentioned in top 10 discussions, and you're sitting there trying to trash the clear number one contender versus the defending champion, and that clear number one contender happens to be one of the greatest women's mixed martial artists of all time, with four or five defenses to her credit during her reign.
Right.
Just ridiculous, just ridiculous. But let's not give that fool any more airtime. Let's move along here to Neil Magny versus Jingling Lee. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong.
Close enough.
Jingling Lee.
Close
Yeah,
enough.
close enough. There we go. Neil Magny, man, surprised the hell out of me. I thought that Lee was going to take advantage of a Neil Magny who spent nearly 2 years on the shelf between injuries and USADA issues, and Lee coming in with this steam of momentum off of a great performance against Easy Dos Santos some months back, and he instead gets sent packing in a dominant unanimous decision. I scored it a 30-26. I gave a 10-8 round for Magny in the second. Matt, what was your scorecard? What was your take on this one?
I had the exact same. I had the exact same score, 10-8 in the second round, because Lee did not do anything whatsoever in that second round, except for just get dominated, getting ragdolled by Neil Magny. Like, how are you going to out-leech the leech? Like, I did not expect that from Neil Magny, like you were saying. For Neil to have so much time away, to come back, this was really a night of, like, proving fuckering rust. Like, that's not a thing. Which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But he came out, like, usually when guys have this much time off, you want to see new wrinkles. You just don't want to see a completely healed up fighter show up, right? You want to see what did you add to your game. You clearly have had to been in the lab working on something. Please show me what you've been working on. And Neil Magny showed us he's been working on his clinch game. He's been working on that quick jab. He's been working on using his range better. He's been working on his defense. Because one thing about Neil, as much as like he's one of my favorite fighters to watch because he doesn't have a boring fight ever. Like every single one of his fights are fire, whether he's winning or he's getting finished. I mean, unfortunately, for him, but he's always in an exciting fight. And tonight, the one thing that I was concerned about was like, was he going to be open to get clipped for punches? I think he got clipped maybe like twice. I was like, oh, there it is. But then the way he reacted to it was completely different than the way he used to react to it. Like he used to get tagged multiple times, like in a row, and then all of a sudden he's rocked and he's wobbled and then crazy exchanges and crazy scrambles happen. That didn't happen here tonight. It was like he got touched once. He was like, okay, not going to let that happen again in succession. Like, here, get in this clinch. I'm taking your back now, or I'm going to get back. I'm going to reset the distance and pop this jab in your face a few times. The unofficial total strikes, man, 123 to 16 in the total.
Jesus Christ.
Like, unbelievable. Just an incredible performance through and through for Neil Magny tonight, man. And I expected him to look good with the time off, being a fresh, healed up fighter. I did not expect him to go out there and dominate like this, though. So I am really, really impressed with that.
Yeah, that was far from expected from Neil Magny. So it's good to see him get back in the win column, get back on the board here after such a long time off, and especially considering that the USADA violation he was cleared of too. So that's to spend, and I'm sure we'll talk about wrongful USADA suspensions very soon too, and long layoffs. But he was able to really display a lot of new wrinkles in his game. I'm kind of feeling a fight with Vicente Luque next. I like that. That just I don't know if that.
Idea. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's aiming too low in the rankings. I don't know where this would put this will put Magny, but I mean Lee wasn't in the top 15 coming into this. Granted, Anthony Pettis and Conor McGregor are 14 and 15 right now on the UFC's rankings. So, in fact, I'm just going to refresh this page to make sure that I'm not looking at something. Oh, nope, that's the current one. Yeah. So Anthony Pettis and Conor McGregor are ranked welterweights right now. So take that for what it's worth. But Lee was not in the top 15 coming into this. So giving Magny someone like Vicente Luque, who right now sits at 13, sounds appropriate to me. I'll take that. And guarantee that's going to be an action fight.
Yeah, 100%. I like this.
Yeah.
I like the suggestions in the chat too. Get
Oh yeah.
Magny
See.
versus Lawler.
Yeah, Magny versus Lawler sounds like a good time too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's around. Yeah, Luque is fighting Randy Brown next. I forgot about that one. You can fight the winner of that fight.
Right. Yeah. No,
I mean, because
I would be inclined to throw Jeff Neal's name in there, but I know he's trying to punch up right now, so I'm with that too. I'm with him trying to punch up the rankings. So
yeah, Jeff. I mean, it would be a good fight for Jeff Neal in the sense that Neil Magny has more of a name. He's a more recognized commodity.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a ranking standpoint, it doesn't make sense for him with the surge of momentum that he has. So and I think Magny probably will be. I don't know. I think the Luque fight might be the better one, or Randy Brown. Either one of those sounds good. Lawler, another good option. Shout out to Rob for another good suggestion right there. So let's move on from that fight. We're going to go to Cowboy Oliveira getting his hand raised in a split decision versus Max Griffin. Now, on a fight card that had a lot less activity, this could have been a fight of the night somewhere on another card. This was a very exciting fight, and this was actually my sleeper pick for fight of the night. Both Alex Oliveira and Max Griffin are never in fights that are boring, and they're two guys who always are willing to go out on their shield, and they just throw down and seem to enjoy the blood and guts. And there was plenty of blood to go around when Max Griffin got two pretty vicious cuts, one right above the eye, I think above his right eye, and then a cut below his left eye. And amazingly, Cowboy Oliveira didn't make some really bizarre fight IQ thing. He didn't just make a very stupid decision at some point to cause them a fight. So, what did you think of this one, man? I was thoroughly entertained.
No, this was a hell of a fight. It was one of those things where, like, I knew this was going to be an action fight because Cowboy Oliveira is always in some crazy ass type of battle before he gasses out. And Max Griffin's just tough. Like, Max is always like that hard nosed, like, I'm gonna come forward and use crisp technique on everything, and you're gonna have to deal with that. And Oliveira is like the exact opposite. He's gonna be like all over the place. He's gonna be throwing all the wild stuff. He's gonna be darting in and out, and he's gonna try to finish the fight too. Like, he's always trying to finish the fight. At least that's the way I perceive him fighting. But I like Max a lot, man, and him coming into this fight, I thought it was a dangerous fight for him because of that. I didn't know how he was going to deal with that unpredictableness of Cowboy, but I thought he did pretty well with it, and I actually scored this fight for him. I think I scored it 29-28 because I thought the third round, in the moment, while Oliveira had about 3.5 minutes of strong work, I thought the way Max used the last minute and a half to really work that ground and pound, keeping him pinned to the mat, like almost in that corner against the cage, I thought that was enough to win the round for him. But, it is what it is. It's a split decision. One official judge agreed with me on that aspect, but, he goes and takes a loss. Got a few stitches, I'm sure, in his face right now, but it was a damn good fight, man. It was a damn good fight, in my opinion.
Very, very good fight. I actually had the same scorecard too, 29-28 for Griffin. Wasn't mad at this decision at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's like nobody can really be that pissed off at the scorecard. So unless someone had a 30-27, that would have made me mad.
Oh yeah, I would have raised hell on that.
Yeah, I'd have kicked this damn table over if that was the case. But fortunately, that wasn't the case, and my table is upright. All right, so let's move along to the featured prelim bout to rehash the topics of bad USADA violations and long layoffs that didn't mean a damn thing because ring rust is a myth. Hashtag Dominic Cruz. Sean O'Malley makes quick work of Jose Alberto Quinones, finishing him with a sequence of punches and a head kick 2 minutes into the first round. Good Lord, Sean O'Malley is back. Oh, how I've missed thee.
Yes, 100%, man. This fight pissed me off. It pissed me off. I was pissed as this fight was unfolding. And I was
Why
pissed.
is that?
I was pissed because this kid got robbed of 2 years of his career. Because the composure that he went out there with, it looked like he had been fighting every night. He was calm, cool, collected. He was like, this dude's not going to touch me. I'm going to hurt him in just a few minutes, however I feel like it. And he was just like, another day at the office. He was like, I'm going to go out here. This dude's going to catch these hands, and there's nothing he can do about it. And I could not help. Like, as soon as the ref pulled him off, and, you know, he just kind of walked away with his chin up, like that sigh of relief look, I was pissed that this kid got robbed of 2 years because he would possibly be in title fights right now if he did not have 2 years of his career robbed from him like this. Now, maybe, I don't know how much of that 2 years went into him looking this good tonight. You know, like I said earlier, like with Neil Magny being in the lab, doing all that stuff we don't see while you're not in action. Like, you got to be working on something, right? You got to be improving somewhere. I don't know how much of that went into tonight's performance, but I would like to think he picked up right where he left off, which was, you know, doing his thing against Andre Sukumtat back in 2018, 2 years ago. So, you know.
Yeah, and the thing about like the bizarre decision by Andre in that fight to take it down after hurting O'Malley's leg, and now you know where would the career trajectories have gone had that decision been different in that moment. But I digress a little bit. Sean O'Malley looked fantastic for someone who had been on the shelf for that long. And clearly he wasn't doing a typical layoff. I mean, he was just competing in quintet, was it about a month ago or something like that?
Yeah, that was in December, yeah. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
December, not a month ago.
Oh, December, yeah. So, yeah, about 2 months ago. Yeah, he was, yeah, because that was around 245 fight week. Yeah, or was it around the Conor fight?
I don't know. Which one was in December? I forget.
I don't know.
Not a history.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. We know. It was very recently. So he was active, and you'd think the way to stop a guy like Sean O'Malley would be to wrestle and control him. You think you smother him, maybe you get him down, but you just gotta keep those long limbs contained, go chest to chest. Whether you be standing on the floor, and you just keep him from moving. But you see a quintet, man, that dude can grapple. he's got a nasty game on the floor, and if you're Quinones and you see that, you what should have been your path to victory doesn't look like it's there anymore. I mean, how to make cannon fodder is what is the only thing that comes to mind, because what are you going to do? Right. Just to imagine the development that we could have seen from this guy with 2 more years being active at his age, and the way the way he seems to just live every moment, the way that moment just he had. And I think that's a very important component. It's something that Israel Adesanya has displayed. It's something that Conor McGregor has displayed, where they don't let the moment get bigger than them.
True.
You know, and O'Malley seems to have that to where he can be off for 2 years and he's going to do exactly what the hell he wants, how he wants, when he wants. And that's a very rare quality. There was not a hint of being tentative. There was not a hint of being gun shy. There was not a hint of ring rust. He just came in there and got to work. So I'm just thinking, imagining O'Malley in this stacked bantamweight division with a Corey Sandhagen, with a Aljamain Sterling, with a Peter Yan, like this. I mean, wow. I'm just glad we got him back. I'm glad we got him back. And I'm making another good call here on the chat. He's saying Sean O'Malley versus Andre Ewell should be next. Ewell has, the very first time I interviewed him, he was dead set on wanting to fight Sean O'Malley. Yeah. Before he was in the UFC, that was the guy that he really wanted. So I'm not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. Yeah, Ewell's he's got to heal that broken arm, and he's got a baby on the way too. So I know his girlfriend is giving birth within the next month or two. So I don't know how long that's gonna, the arm and the baby is gonna keep him kind of on the shelf doing the personal life thing. But not mad at that matchup at all.
Brian Kelleher was talking that good on Twitter.
Oh yeah, didn't he? Yeah, saying that the fight was fixed. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Fixed? Really?
Yeah.
You
do
realize you fight in the same sport in the same organization, and that makes your fights look questionable when you say that too, right?
Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
Come on, bro.
Come on. Yeah, come on.
Leave the first part out and then just do the call out. Just do the call out.
Yeah, just call him out. MC to MC, man. Come on, bro. Let me stop. I'll rap no more. Let me stop. All right. So, all right. Now, next up, and we'll kind of go through a few of these little more quickly here. Marco Madsen, and in fact, let me just say Mark Madsen, because his name is not O Madsen. O is his middle initial. UFC commentary team.
Yeah, like
they spent the first round and a half calling him O Madsen.
I think he has one of those things where he wants that to be a thing though. Like, cause it's if you go to his typology, it's typed out like that too. Like Mark O Madsen. Like why? Like that must be the thing. Like, hey, this is what I want to be referred by for some reason.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, does the O stand for something really cool?
I don't know. Maybe he wants to be Irish. I don't know.
It better not be Oliver.
I don't know. Let me see.
Let's see. I'm gonna click on it. See if we see the middle name here.
That's why.
Oh, the Olympian. Oh, that is. Oh no. Actually, no. His middle name is Overguard. That's his legal name.
Yeah, but he wants to double. He wants to double entendre. You know what it is. You know. What
that's trash. That is trash. That is super trash. But despite that trash, he wins a unanimous decision against Austin Hubbard. I mean, I'll say this: he got pushed. Hubbard pushed him. Hubbard made him work for every little bit of that win. I think this is one of those character building fights for Madsen, a guy who's smashed everyone that he's faced. A lot of success as an Olympic wrestler. What medal did he get? Did he get a gold?
I believe so. I believe that's what they were saying.
It was a gold medal. Okay. I just couldn't remember what medal it was. I'm sure the chat will remind me. Let's see here. It'll pop up on the chat, I'm sure. But to have Olympic success and to dominate everyone you fought in mixed martial arts, and in your 10th contest, I believe it was, your 10th contest, you run into a brick wall and you have to dig deep to win. I think that's a character building moment, and something that Madsen will take with him as he, inevitably improves upon his current skill set. So, anything you want to share about this particular fight?
I mean, it was a good fight. It was a good test for him, and like he said after the fact, he kind of proved something to himself, or learned a little bit tonight as well. What it takes, once you start getting in these tougher fights in the third round in the deep waters where things kind of get a little murky, guy starts kind of saying, hey, my back's against the wall and I got to do something here. And Austin Hubbard did exactly what you want to see from a guy who's clearly down 2 rounds. He came out and tried to end the fight because that's literally the only way you're going to win. And, we hear that all the time. That's why we've always been, clamoring for open scoring. We want to know, hey, if a guy is down, he needs to know that he needs to come out and try to do something, he or she, rather. And without open scoring, tonight it was obvious for Austin Hubbard and his camp. They knew, hey, you're down 2 rounds. I forget exactly what it was his camp or his corner was saying to him, but they were very animated in saying, hey, you got to go out there and do some work right now. And he went out there and did some work. So shout out to him for making that adjustment, because a lot of fighters in the UFC, a lot of fighters in MMA period, don't make that adjustment even when they should know that they're down 2 rounds. So good on him and good on Marco Madsen for dealing with it and, potentially learning how to adjust to that in the future. So that's really my main takeaways from that fight.
All right. So another fight where a standout grappler was kind of supposed to do damage and was able to get the win, as most would predict, was Rodolfo Vieira. Got a submission by arm triangle choke against Saparbek Safarov. A fight where he too had to work for it. It wasn't given to him. It ended very quickly, but Vieira definitely had to. He finished him with one eye, essentially. He got one of his eyes completely busted. And then with one eye was able to set up the choke for the finish. The only real takeaway on this fight for me, because we did expect Safarov to get tapped out here. I don't think that part was a shock. But looking at Vieira, it just reminded me of how I was built in my prime. So that kind of brought back some memories there. Anything you want to add about this fight?
The only thing that stood out to me is that once he transitioned to that arm triangle, it wasn't like really even much of a fight put up, because it's like sometimes like 'cause you've been on the mats, you trained, when you're not getting out of shit sometimes.
Yeah,
it's just like
this is over for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, bro. You got it.
It's like, I'm ready to go to the after party now. Yeah.
It was one of those. And I mean, I'm sure if it was like a higher stakes fight, maybe he would have put up more of a fight. I don't know. I mean, obviously, all of these fights are high stakes. You should always be trying to give it your all. I'm not trying to say that, but it was just one of those things where it was like, I'm not getting out of this. This dude's squeeze is something ridiculous. And this is a bad position. So I'm going to tap out before I get something ripped up or before I go unconscious. So, that's it.
All right, cool. So we'll move on to the next fight up on the card. Gerald Meerschaert, who got his own submission win against Deron Winn, a guy who I'm currently built like. He gets this done in the final round with like 2 minutes left to go. So I don't really know what to make of Deron Winn at this point now.
I think you had tweeted tonight about him, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I did tweet that. Yeah. Like, so for anyone watching that doesn't follow my Twitter, I said, it said Deron Winn might have peaked in Golden Boy. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. I was there for that Golden Boy MMA event, and the only legitimate talk amongst MMA media there was about Deron Winn. We knew what was going to happen with Chuck Tito 3. No one really cared about any other fights on the card. Most of them were like debuting fighters and 1-0s and stuff. And I think aside from that, it was what's your man's name? Gleison Tebow. And Gleison Tebow, and I forget who he was fighting on that card, but those are the only legitimate things going on. Deron Winn was the talk of that fight for anyone who really knows mixed martial arts, and for good reason. A guy with a standout wrestling background, training at AKA, was essentially the heir apparent to Daniel Cormier. Fights just like him, built just like him. You know, he just seemed to be the perfect guy to come on the scene and replicate what his mentor was able to do. And so far in the UFC, he has not performed nearly up to those expectations. You know, even he got the win against Eric Spicely, dropped the decision to Darren Stewart after missing weight, which is amazing to think that a guy who is 5'8" is missing weight at middleweight. You know, it's pretty insane. And Gerald Meerschaert is you know, I don't, no disrespect to him, but he was not supposed to win tonight. Gerald Meerschaert is a guy who isn't the most difficult to take down. He's not necessarily the most dangerous finisher. It's, you know, this was an appropriate step up in competition for Deron Winn, and I thought he should have gotten the decision in the Darren Stewart fight. So I thought, okay, they're giving him an appropriate step up in competition. It seemed right, but I don't know where do you think the sport of mixed martial arts is not connecting with his development?
It's tough, man. It's tough because they're putting him in there, like you said, against a guy who he should have beaten on paper, so to speak. But at the same time, like I like Gerald Meerschaert's game, even though he's not, you know, the most polished, so to speak. But he knows what he's good at, right? And if he can get a hold of you, if he can get it to the mat, he's gonna tap you out, right? So if you can avoid that, yeah, if you can avoid that, then you should do good. And I expected Deron Winn to be able to do that, considering the caliber of people that he trains with over there at AKA, right?
Right.
You know, I just don't know what's not clicking, what's not getting put together. Like someone in the chat said a second ago, it looked like he gave up on himself. Austin Jones said that in the chat. There, it looks like he kind of gave up on himself there. Like he did, again, like one of those guys that didn't really necessarily fight the choke off too much, so to speak. But GM3, man, he's got a nice little squeeze on him, and he's real savvy on the mat. But I don't know what the answer for Deron Winn is right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe we were all putting too high of an expectation on him and his game at this point because of that Daniel Cormier connection. You know, and that was really the main thing that we were all, like you said, at the Liddell Ortiz 3 fight, we were all making that connection. Like everybody was talking about, oh, if he wins, he beats Tom Lawler, he's going to go to the UFC. He's going to get signed to the UFC. That was really like the main talk, at least from my view, my viewpoint. It wasn't necessarily so much the talk about him being ready for the UFC. You know, it was just that he's connected to this team here. If he gets this win against this former UFC guy, he's good enough to be in the UFC. And I mean, I guess that makes sense in a world where the Contender Series is a thing. You know, where some guys get in that aren't necessarily quite ready. Short notice call-ups are a thing all the time.
Right. And you're running, and you've got 500 something bouts a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to get guys that creep through that aren't quite ready for that stage. And I think that's him. I think that's him right now. And I think he can be better. I think he can have success at this level. I just think he needs more work to get there. Maybe if it is a different weight class, I don't know. Maybe if it's just more polishing on his game, maybe more focus on his game. There is something missing there, though. I just can't pinpoint it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I want to address a couple of things. One, Austin Jones' comment about the choke being on the jaw and not under the chin. I wouldn't look at that as a sign that he gave up. I mean, I know you Matt, I know you spent your time on the mat too, and I think we both can agree that I'd rather be choked around my neck than on my jaw. It is extraordinarily painful for that squeeze to be applied to your jaw. Yeah,
As a matter
it's
of fact, I've adjusted myself sometime, more than one occasion, to slide the elbow under when that shit happens.
yeah,
Straight up.
yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt, because it's so ungodly painful to have a strong person squeezing along your jaw, and then if you try to push it up higher and it gets on your cheekbone, that doesn't feel very good either. If you push it up, you don't get your head fully out, and it goes above, like around your eye. Good Lord, that's a nightmare and a half. You'll tap faster than you could ever dream. So I'd rather just go unconscious. It's just I'd rather just go to sleep than do that. And also too, Rob, I'm in saying not middleweight, welterweight should be the answer. I'm not opposed to that at all, because without personalizing this even more, after me already saying that I'm built just like Deron Wynn, like we're about the same size. He's a little thicker than me, but we're about the same height, and dimensions are almost the same from what I gathered the time or two that I've been around him. I don't belong at middleweight. I probably don't belong at welterweight either.
Yeah.
Yeah, just saying, like that's yeah, Rob's suggesting he should see a nutritionist and drop to 170 the proper way. I can't disagree with that at all. And if we want to continue with the Cormier comparisons, Daniel Cormier is a guy who is infamous for not having the best diet. This is the guy who did like that little dumb video dancing with the chicken and the cupcakes flying behind him and stuff, and him and Derek Lewis's,
that was a regular meal.
Promo was based on their love of Popeye's chicken. I think Deron Wynn not only shares similar physical dimensions and a fight style, I think he has the same taste in food as Daniel Cormier, and it's probably time to have a professional go through his nutrition, clean things up so he can drop weight appropriately, so he's not going to be this grossly like undersized middleweight.
Yeah.
Because if you're struggling with the Darren Stewarts and Gerald Mersharts of the world, if you're just getting by the Eric Spiceleys of the world, did you see those two guys in the main event? Imagine Deron Wynn standing in front of Yoel Romero at a weigh-in, or how far Israel Adesanya would have to look down to see him. It doesn't make any sense, and he's done fantastic work for his size, where he's placed. But it's time to take that out of the equation, because the tests only get tougher as more film is done on you. Even if you don't raise the level of competition, more about your game is being exposed. So you might want to at least take the size factor out of it as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, as he was saying, I think on Ariel Helwani this week, he wanted to distance himself from the Daniel Cormier comparisons. Only way you do that is by getting on a good diet plan, because right now, like, your whole career trajectory is heading literally in that same path, where Daniel Cormier was the much smaller guy, super thick and got hell of punching power, so he can get guys out of there, got the wrestling pedigree, so he can get guys, in bad positions. But Daniel Cormier was always the smaller dude. He's always the, much shorter guy. That's where we're getting these comparisons from right now. You're the much shorter guy who, yeah, like you were saying, man, focus on your nutrition. You can be at a lighter weight class. So if you want to kind of make that thing happen to where you distance yourself from those comparisons, get your nutrition right, get in a right weight class, and show us that you can actually compete at what you should be competing at, versus trying to go out there and pick off dudes that are way bigger than you. They're going to show up and have 30 and 40 pounds on you on fight night.
Right. And then also, when you look at what Cormier did earlier in his career, he used his wrestling as much as possible.
Yeah, he did.
As much as possible. It wasn't until he got in front of Jeff Munson that we saw hands. And Jeff Munson is a guy who's known primarily for his submission wrestling abilities. So it made sense from a strategic standpoint to make that a stand-up fight. Deron Wynn has not been using his wrestling the way he should. At this stage in his career, Daniel Cormier's only objective was to grab a hold of your leg and drag you to the ground. You know, that's what his main game was. So I think it'll be time, at least in that respect, to embrace the Cormier comparisons and shoot for those legs. You know, go for those takedowns, go for the, you know, close the distance and get in those clinches and drag someone down, as opposed to trying to have these boxing matches. You know, when you have just far inferior reach and size to the people that you're trying to outbox and then ended up losing to. So hopefully he can get things together. But let's move on to a entertaining fight. It's a surprisingly entertaining fight. It didn't go the way I expected it, and I'm sure I'm going to screw up this gentleman's name, but Giga Chikadze. He gets a split decision win over Jamal Emmers in Emmers' UFC debut. I will say that I think the judges got this decision right. I gave it to Chikadze as well, but I think the real story of this fight is Jamal Emmers' performance. Jamal Emmers impressed me a lot more than the winner. What was your take on this one?
No, I agree with you, man. It's not a fight that you're going to come into the UFC and look good against a guy like Giga, because he is awkward. He's awkward. He's got like that wide base karate style, switch of stances. He's going to throw a lot of awkward techniques that you have to deal with. He's not a guy that you show up on your first fight in the UFC and look good against. Like that's like one of those nightmare matchups. That's a really, hey kid, this is the UFC. This is what you got to deal with. Dude's this fucking hard to fight, like Giga. And you know, his record may not show it. Like he's 17-4, I believe, or something like that, right? Giga
17-5 now.
No, Giga's 9-2.
Oh,
Sorry.
Giga. Oh, Giga's
I was looking at the wrong one. Giga's 9-2. So you know he's got a couple of L's because he lost that Contender Series fight. That's what I was thinking of. But he is just a nightmare matchup for a lot of people because of his style. And yeah, I agree with you, man. The way that Jamal Emmers came in, he made some adjustments. He showed, again, what I was talking about earlier. Fighters show up in the UFC and they don't make adjustments. And so when you do that in your very first fight, that says a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
It says a lot to me. So good on him. I think he has a bright future. You know, but you just got to figure out, how do you win at this level? How do you go out there and make sure you don't get behind early? And how do you go out there and put your stamp on a fight to where the judges are going to say, yeah, you did enough. One judge said he did enough, but how do you convince two? Got to have two. So,
right.
Yeah. It was a good fight for him, though. It was a good fight for him.
Yeah. A very, very good fight for him. And he's been on the UFC radar for a little while now. He lost his Contender Series fight. I believe that was last summer or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I think he was on a episode of Looking for the Fight in an LFA main event. So he's been on the UFC's radar for a little while, and I think despite coming up with an L, he made good on that debut. So I'm very excited to see what's next for Emmers. Now this one you might have to lead the discussion on, because I only saw the finish between Dana Bakriel and Guido Canetti. First round left hook. What I saw looked like it was coming in as a jab, and then he looped it at the last second and caught Canetti right in the head and finished that one. Any takeaways from this one?
No, that's about all I saw too, to be honest with you. I'm not even gonna front. I came in like right as this fight was about to end, so I didn't get to see how it really all unfolded. I mean, it was a relatively quick fight, but can't add much than that, other than the dude's name always throws me off.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't have to say it a whole lot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because I was actually in the car in the back seat trying to make sure my son didn't start crying as we were leaving a kid's birthday party. So I was making sure the pacifier was there, and he had his blankets on him in the car seat. And then I was able to turn the phone on and catch the replay of the finishing sequence there. So, all right, let me scan this chat real quick to see if I missed anything in particular. I don't think we've been keeping up with the chat pretty decent today. So, all right, cool. Well, Matt, this will be a good time for you to tell the good folks where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, people, check me out at Mr. M Wells Art on Twitter. Yeah, all my MMA related stuffs, fan-sided MMA, flow combat, slip and dip. Yeah, all that good stuff as well. And of course, if you want to check out my art stuff, go to mwellsart.com. I got that site back up popping. So back in
Yeah,
the
you got
commission game again.
some dope stuff on that site too. Might have to decorate the house with the joint with Izzy with the fire come out of his hands. That was hard.
Appreciate it.
I don't know if my wife will let me, but I'll do it anyway. See what happens. So yeah, hopefully we can get you on Unleashed on the panel show. I know when we record that, you're normally at your day job. So
Yeah.
we'll one day it's going to happen. You'll be part of the panel. All will be right with the world. So yeah, of course, y'all know where to find me. This is my channel, the Walkout Network. Obviously, we can find me. New episode of Unleash will be dropping Tuesday. We're going to record that Monday night. Our guest panelist will be Rodney James of Cage Side Press, who got a little bit more attention than he planned on at the UFC 249 press conference a couple of days ago. So that should be an interesting discussion we have with him. Of course, Ben Duffy and Jay Petrie of Sherdog.com will both be on the show as well. So thank you, everyone who's watching. Thank you for participating in the chat. Hope to see you all again soon. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. In the meantime, you know what you got to do. You got to stay beautiful. You got to stay positive. And most of all, you got to stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.